Part 8. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 71. For fear of waking up to sleep, Chi Yuan was afraid to breathe. Just holding her breath, she stared at the woman in front of her. They are obviously not brothers and sisters. She obviously can sleep with him. What's wrong with him? Let her rather turn him into a brother than treat him as a man. Those thoughts in his heart burned and made him extremely uncomfortable, but his face was extremely calm. He was already good at suppressing his thoughts, so even if his heart was burning to death and torture was about to reach the edge of insanity, he still looked at her with a pair of black and white eyes. Sleeping like this is not good for the body at all, so after a while he reached out and carefully wrapped her waist and neck. She was probably so exhausted that she didn't wake up. This was the first time she held her in her arms. She was much lighter than expected. Her head rested on his arm, her hair was slightly scattered, and her face was only slightly larger than her palm. At this moment, she looked like a small girl. The princess, a weak little, made him want to hold her like this, to protect her from the wind and rain for a lifetime. Chi Yuan's heartbeat was so fast that he exhaled silently, and then held her step by step towards the room. Going to Yan's bedroom, Chi Yuan bent over and placed the person on the bed. He did not immediately release his arm from her neck, but instead bowed his head with his lips when he bent down, and touched her with a light touch. This touch was like activating all the emotions that were suppressed in his heart by pressing the switch, making him unable to stop. The shallow kiss swam down, he touched the tip of her nose, and he touched her lips. Staying on her slightly moistened lips, his body seemed to be frozen by time and did not move for a long time. Would she hold him if she woke up now? Or, will he still beat him and scold him and drive him out? Would she accept it if he cooked raw rice and confessed to her? Chi Yuan thought about this more than once in his heart. But he also knew very well that she would not accept him, and maybe she would drive him out of the house. She really took him as his younger brother, without any worries. But he was more and more dissatisfied with the role of this brother, and he even hated a bit, hating his so-called brotherhood. Sister, he pressed his face against her cheek, twitched softly, and murmured, I like you, sister, I like it very much. After that, Kangji fled the room and shut the door. As soon as the door closed, Yanji opened his eyes, his expression was extremely complicated. The chick was gloating, look, this is what you call affectionate affection. Am I not doing well enough? Yanji was confused for the first time, am I not good enough to him? Chi Yuan must have known that she was awake, so she would say that. He wants to stimulate her. The more clearly you see the essence, the more disappointed Yan's heart is. He didn't even want to pretend to have this affection with her again. It can be seen that he only likes her with love, not true love. If you really love someone, you can't bear the trouble of that person. Regarding the issue of Yanj, the cub seriously tilted his head and thought, the main reason is that you are not brothers and sisters. To him, what you are good to him is to beat him. Normal. The words are silent. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 72. Yan Ji is not willing to repeat the same mistakes, so that the ferocity of the mighty will continue to fail. This night, Yan Song did not sleep well, obviously, Chi Yuan did not sleep well. The next day, the door of Yanj rang, and Chi Yuan opened the door. Sister, go out for a run? Together, Chi Yuan looked up, and his eyes changed with a smile and greeted with a song from his sportswear. He seemed unaffected by what happened last night. Yes, he has disguised himself so well in recent years. If he can be easily affected, Yanj won't realize that things have deviated from the planned track until now. She nodded calmly, okay. As she passed the dining table, she was surprised to find that the cake prepared for him last night had become an empty plate, so big, he As if to verify what Yang thought, Chi Yuan said, "Thank you for the cake that my sister prepared for me. I ate it all. It was so delicious, so I forgot to leave it to my sister, wouldn't you mind?" In just 2 years, he has changed from a young and somewhat inferior boy to a very charismatic man. When he smiled and looked at the words, the pair of eyes under the long eyelashes was really charming. Yan Ji slightly raised his head and glanced at him. "It was originally prepared for you." She didn't talk anymore. Sitting on the shoe stool was about to bend over to change shoes. Chi Yuan had already taken the sneakers out of the shoe cabinet. He helped her change the shoes and tied the laces. He was sighing. "Sister's feet are so small, they look so good." He looked up and looked at Shang Yanj with a complex expression, and then smiled and asked, "Sister, what's wrong? Is a Yuan so good looking, so is he stunned?" Words of song. An old fairy who had lived for thousands of years, she didn't believe he could have such a small, hairy hair. Taking a deep breath invisibly, Yan Ji asked him with a straight face, "I heard that you have been dating Shen Yi recently." "Her are too big, and I don't like them at all," Chi Yuan muttered with a look of disapproval at once. "I hate women with big breasts." When talking, his eyes were still on Yan Pingchuan's chest. Probably because the body is a tree, even if the shape is changed, Yan's chest is very flat. She wants a pair of in her dreams. Unfortunately, whenever the plane enters the plane, the host's chest is very small, which makes her extremely depressed. I heard Chi Yuan say so now. Not only did she not feel praised, but she was very angry. Yan's voice became more and more severe. "Since nothing is going on, why are your manuscripts flying all over the sky? Since you don't like others, you should reject them early, don't hang on to other girls." Chi Yuan still has a hippie smile. "I have a show with her to promote. The two companies operate. Since my sister doesn't like it, I'll tell the company tomorrow. Then between you and Anna. Last time you took her to dinner with me. What is going on between you now?" After waiting for Chi Yuan to respond, Yanj said, "Anna is a good girl. I can see that she likes you very much. You should cherish her. Don't think that you have acted in a few TV series. There are little fans. The world is invincible. Anna is one of my little fans. She always admires you." Sister Chi Yuan squatted down on one knee again, his wide palm pressed against the back of Yanj's hand, and said helplessly, "Sister, I don't have I like other girls. I do nt like those girls, no matter how good, because I have someone I like. Sister, I like you. Like very much. It's not the kind that my brother likes my sister. It's that men like women." A series of words. Chi Yuan did not even give the opportunity to interrupt the song, so he said it. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again." Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 73. "I'm your sister." Yan's eyelashes moved. Instead of pulling her hands back, she raised her eyes and confronted Chi Yuan. "We are sisters and brothers, and everyone knows we are family." "Sister, we are not, dear," Chi Yuan said. "It doesn't matter if others know it or not, I know I like you." Before speaking, he continued to say, "Sister, I like you. This is my business. It has nothing to do with you. I know you can't accept it, so you treat me as if I didn't say anything." Yanj twitched, and she rubbed Chi Yuan's hair, disappointed and disheartened. "But you already said that. I heard it too, Yuan. I have always regarded you as my brother. I don't want you to have that idea." "But sister, I can't help it." He bowed his head slightly, like a large dog tame her. His wet eyes were pitiful and screamed, "Sister, I'm afraid you know you will drive me away, so I can bear it forever, but I can't help it now. I think it will explode if I continue to bear it." Yan Ji's hand froze slightly. Chi Yuan continued and said, "Sister, we had an actor who died in the cast 2 days ago. Sudden death without any warning, so he died. I sometimes think, what if my sister suddenly dies? My sister didn't know that I liked my sister, so I liked it so much. Whenever I think of my sister, I think the whole world is particularly beautiful." Yanj thinks that this guy has too many romance dramas, and he plays seizures anytime, anywhere. She rubbed Chi Yuan's hair again, then pinched his chin and raised it. It is as if the queen above is examining her pet. Chi Yuan not only did not feel humble and embarrassed, but was extremely excited, and he liked her touch very much. Yan Ji rubbed his fingers on Chi Yuan's lips and asked thoughtfully, "Do you really like me?" The touch of Yan's fingers made Chi Yuan's entire body tremble slightly, and it was even more unbearable somewhere. His wet eyes gradually revealed the desire, and his throat rolled, and he could not wait to throw her in this narrow space. Here, do countless times what he dreamed of in his dreams. Yan Ji ignored his smoky eyes, and she continued to ask, "Can't you like others?" Chi Yuan's voice was hoarse and firm, and said, "No, in this life, I only like my sister." "Then cut that thing." Yan Ji glanced at Chi Yuan's bulging crotch, and his expression was hard to hide. "Cut it, maybe you won't like me anymore." Chi Yuan listened to her extremely calm and extremely serious voice, her eyes widened, her face unbelievable. He felt himself hearing. Yanj retracted his hand and stood up to find his mobile phone. "I'll consult a doctor. This kind of thing should be relatively simple and there should be no sequelae. The third leg is cut, and it's still called sequelae. This is the lifeblood of a man, how can he cut it off?" Chi Yuan stood up, staring at the song in sleepwalking, his voice stuttered, a little helpless, "Sister, aren't you kidding?" Yan Ji looked up as he looked up the phone number, and glanced at Chi Yuan. "What's so funny about this?" After a pause, she seemed to be enlightened and asked him, "Why, you don't want to?" After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 74. Which man would be willing? Chi Yuan laughed and tried to turn the matter over with jokes, so he exaggeratedly said, "Sister, this is going to be cut. Who will give you sexual blessings in the future? I am still a little virgin/boy. I been expecting it for my sister for half a lifetime. You can't be so hard, sister, I will be scared to cry. Without you, I can still have good fortune." Yan Ji still looked serious. "If you think you are still a virgin/male, you can find a woman to experience before cutting. This operation is definitely all hemp, don't be afraid of pain." The tone and expression of Yan Ji made Chi Yuan's inexplicable panic. He always felt that his sister didn't seem to be joking. But he was still calm and asked with a smile, "Will my sister help me?" "I'm your sister. It's against humanity, I can't." Yan Ji paused. "Are you afraid?" "There is no need to be afraid of this kind of thing. After a dozen anesthesia, it will be fine after waking up." After a pause, Yanj said, "Since it is decided to cut this thing, there is no need to experience it again, so as not to worry about it in the future." The expression on this woman's face was nothing like a joke. Too cruel, even let him wave his sword from the palace, but he just likes her. Is it necessary to cut off his life? He was indignant, but he didn't show his face, and he held her aggrieved and pathetic. "Sister, will you cut it off, and you will like me?" "What logic is this?" Yanj said extremely firmly, "I like you because you are my brother, and it doesn't involve the relationship between men and women. You don't have to think about it in the future. In fact, if you cut it off, your love for me will also become my sister. Like it?" So, to cut off his life is to turn his love for her from a man and a woman into a brother-in-law relationship? Obviously they are not brothers and sisters. Why do they have to be brothers and sisters? Sister Chi Yuan looked at Yanj, gradually withdrawing the laughter from her face. Her eyes were dim, and her eyes were distressed as if she were sad. "You just said this to me, are you kidding me?" But his emotion was just like a beauty throwing a wink at a blind man, and the words were not shocked by the sad beauty on his face. Yan Ji shook his head without thinking. "It's not a joke, I'm your sister, I don't want you to go astray. Since you don't think you can change it, I can help you get rid of the culprit." Qi Yuan looked at the woman in a serious manner, and the anger in her heart gradually became cold. "It's like opening a hole in my heart, boring into the cold wind, blowing him cold all over the body. Sister, no one sister will want his brother to become a eunuch, and no other sister will say to help his brother, you have cut your life. You always say that you are treating me as your brother and sister. Sister, ask yourself, do you really think so?" Qi Yuan really asked Yan Ji to live. She asked the cubs in consciousness, "My sister can't cut my brother's stuff. The chicken was recently chasing a heroine and got leukemia. The heroine cut the kidney to the heroine's idol drama in order to save the heroine. The plot is the most dramatic part, although a lot of bullets are on the barrel. If the new skill 666 is activated, the chicken is not affected by the plot bug at all." When he heard Yanj questioning, he answered without answering, "Yes, as long as there is love and love, everything can be cut. After my death, the villain blackened again." Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 75. The answer of the cub was even more confusing. Qi Yuan didn't give Yanj time to reflect, and his voice was indignant. He continued, "Sister, you have never regarded me as a brother." "I have always regarded you as my younger brother," Yanj immediately refuted. "It's just that I have no experience in being a sister for the first time after all, and my affection for you may make you uncomfortable, but you don't have to question my sister. Brotherhood." When she said that, she was obviously a little sad. She wanted to reach out and rub Qi Yuan's head, and her hand stopped in mid-air and then reacted as if it came back. "It's my fault, I didn't teach you well, but fortunately there is room for turning." She seemed to be determined, with a very determined look. "You and your assistant call for a month's leave. We will go abroad and find a reliable doctor to help you." Before she could finish speaking, Qi Yuan suddenly grabbed her shoulder with one hand and pressed her against the back of her head to press her against the wall, lowering her head and kissing her lips. He came fiercely, like an angry beast, trying to conquer her with the most primitive power. Yan Ji was going to lift his leg to kick him. Qi Yuan first stepped one leg between her legs and pressed her tightly against the wall to make her unable to resist. The chicken did not even chase the idol drama, and his two eyes were glaring at the handsome man and woman on the wall nibble. They pecked at the seeds while eating, and said, "It's so difficult. Yes, I haven't found it in the film." After a while, fluttering quickly, he took all the melon seeds boxes on his high stools, and shouted again, "This kind of man is not dry enough, you give the wood a little bit of strength." Before the chicks entered the space of the fandom system, they were a pure bird/beast lying on the tree of Yanj every day, counting their feathers every day. In just a few days, it has become a real bird/beast. Yanj couldn't care less about the chicken cub. Qi Yuan swept through her mouth in a storm, and one of them even touched her chest. The host's body is the standard of a house girl, without any explosive power, let alone the so-called force value, so she simply found the right time to bite Qi Yuan's tongue fiercely. The smell spread in her mouth, and she thought that Qi Yuan gave her a little time to fight back. Unexpectedly, Qi Yuan became more and more crazy when she was stimulated, and pulled off her sportswear to hold her clothes over her chest. Her face was covered by clothes. A little bit of pain in the chest, but Qi Yuan bit her in revenge. Yan Ji was anxious, this little bunny is looking for death. She scrambled to get rid of Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan endured this for so long. Sheng Sheng has grown from a little wolf dog to a bird/beast. He could still continue to pretend to be pure, but the reason stimulated by the words of the song is completely lost. She must be crying and begging him. He tied his hands with Yan Ji's sportswear sleeves. Grasped Yan's waist with his hand to turn Yang over, so that Yang was facing away from him. He held the tie in his hands and pressed it on the back of Yang to make it impossible to move, and the other hand lifted. She goes with her pants. They are all track pants, and they are easy to take off. For the first time, he was angry and excited on the one hand. I didn't give myself a little time to adapt to Yang at all, so I entered so strongly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 76. So all the anger and excitement turned into pain. Qi Yuan hurts, and Yan Ji hurts even more. Of course, the pain is second, mainly because it is too frustrating. The son raised by himself has become a strong ex guilty, and X is still her. In this life, how can one fail? She yelled angrily, Qi Yuan, you asshole, your mother will kill you. Qi Yuan always listened to her soft whispers, where she had seen her so hot, so all the pain became a sense of accomplishment that finally saw her true face. After slowing down, he couldn't wait to move again. He hugged her waist so she couldn't move, and he bent over and kissed her back. The phrase "sister, I like you" was brewing in the mouth and turned into a silent kiss entangled on her. After all, it was a wolf for the first time. Qi Yuan ran into it, but it didn't take long to explain. He froze, and after the frenzy hit, he fell from heaven to in an instant. He couldn't think of how fast he would be. The rebellion of Yang awakened Qi Yuan from aggression. He reached out and took Yang to walk towards Yang's bedroom. The two spent a whole day in the bedroom. Cell phones are ringing in the living room until they are powered off. It was not until dusk that Yang was free. She had already been tossed, her body was soft and she had no strength to hit Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan's passion for more than 20 years finally vented. He was like a lame beast, holding his words in his arms, bowing his head slightly, and holding the woman in his arms softly. He could remember that just now she was not only very happy, but also asked him countless times. Knowing that such a simple and rude thing would solve it, he should have acted this way. The song was so exhausting that she squinted her eyes for a while and was awake. Qi Yuan was still asleep, and she did not forget to squeeze her tightly in her sleep. She opened Qi Yuan's arms and got up, put on her robe, smoked a cigarette and a lighter from the bedside table, and lit a cigarette. After taking a few sips, she squinted and looked at the dark night out the window. The smoke lingered in front of her, and her lazy and charming appearance was like a fallen angel in this night, beautiful and enchanting. The chicken asked her, "Are you cool?" Yang took a hard breath and spit it out in circles. She is a very self-controlling person. In the plane, she comes from the character of the host. This time, she defines herself as Qi Yuan's sister, and she really became Qi Yuan's sister. Things like changing settings won't appear in her dictionary. Cool. Sure. But the more uncomfortable she became, the more uncomfortable she was. This time she was obviously going to have a miscarriage in a pro-emotional way. What hurt her most was that she and her so-called younger brother had done such a thing. Taking another bitter cigarette, Yan Ji bowed his head slightly, staring at the smoke in his fingers. The feeling of failure has only been experienced by the mighty. She worked hard to make a plan for him to investigate the situation, but this guy, why is it so bad that he can't help the tree? Depressed speech song, after smoking the cigarette fiercely, slightly raised his head like a vent and spit out the circle of cigarettes. As if remembering something, she turned her head, her eyes fell on Qi Yuan's abdomen, her eyes narrowed narrowly, and her murderous spirit filled. Sleeping Qi Yuan obviously did not know that his younger brother's life was in danger. Even in his sleep, his lips were slightly raised and he seemed to laugh. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 77. The chicken first saw Yanj smoking like this to relieve his sorrow, and he watched Yanj while smashing the seeds. His excited little eyes couldn't hide the good news. Seeing Yanj's eyes fell on Chi Yuan's undescribable place, he was so excited that he asked Yanj, "Are you still not satisfied?" Yan Song finished smoking a cigarette and took another one in his mouth. God spoke to the chicken, "Don't you say that the system will block some unspeakable pictures. If you watch other people's movements so intently, you won't be afraid of growing up." Corn. Without waiting for the chick to respond, she said to herself, "Oh, I ignored it. You are already corns. It doesn't matter if you grow a few more." The chicken immediately jumped angrily. "All said that I am not a chicken, you have a heartless wooden hammer. How many times have I told you that my brother and sister can't get through? What are you doing right now? If you are unhappy, let me spread fire. Believe it or not, labor and capital ate you. Do you have that ability?" Chicken, I don't have the ability, but I haven't been eaten many times by other beasts. Come and hurt each other. Yanj interrupted it, "Don't be crooked like a chicken, just say, do you see others doing this kind of thing? Don't you feel ashamed?" The chicken cocked his neck and said, "You are not ashamed of labor and management, what is it?" Labor and management are long-lived fairies, labor and management are not minors. The words are silent. Her reaction was not normal at all. The chicken, who had been stubbing her neck for a long time and did not wait to fight back, had to retract her head, pretending to carelessly ask a song, "What are you planning now?" "Cut his stuff," Yan Ji said coldly, "shave him bald, shave all the hair off him, lock him in the room, and let him call my sister every day. When will he recognize as my brother? When will I release him?" The most poisonous woman's heart. The chicken was terrified by the somber tone of Yan Ji, and shuddered, and hesitated. "The host is in a society ruled by law, and you will violate the law by doing so. The host is a good law-abiding citizen. Your extreme way will make the task of the geek system fail, so you will lose more." She didn't know the words, she just said angrily. Feeling extremely depressed, she ignored the chickens, exited the system space with a sense of consciousness, and again smoked bitterly, frowning slightly at the bright night scene illuminated by colorful neon lights outside the window. A box of cigarettes was wiped out by her in an instant, and she got up and went out to leave, ignoring Chi Yuan, who was already awake. Chi Yuan was lying on his side, always staring at the back of Yan Ji. He had never seen her smoking. Never seen her such a decadent back. Is it really difficult to be with him? He didn't understand what the woman insisted on. With eyes closed, Yanj was about to go out. He always had the illusion that she would never come back when she opened the door, so she jumped from the bed and walked behind her in a few steps to catch her. "Sister, sister," he bowed his head, his face was on her shoulders, begging in general, "Sister, I really like you, you give me a chance to take care of you, okay, I swear, I will never betray you in my life, I will never be like Wang Xiaoming, sister, can you think about me, I really will not betray you." A song that wants to go to the kitchen to get a knife. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 78. Yan Ji pushed Chi Yuan, but did not push away. This guy didn't wear anything, just holding her like this, her hips could feel his third wobbly leg. "You let go of me," Yan Ji frowned. She closed her eyes and closed her eyes. She calmly said, "Go and get dressed and cook, I'm hungry." Seeing her indifferent tone, Chi Yuan didn't mean anything other than rejection. She was slightly rejoicing and whispered coquettishly, "Sister, you haven't responded to my words yet." Yan Ji frowned and suddenly wanted to overthrow this guy. Chi Yuan tilted his head on Yan's shoulder and watched Yan's expression secretly. He found that Yan's face sank. He immediately let go of Yanj and went out. Sister, what do you want to eat? I will do it. Geodes. Chi Yun didn't hear clearly. What? Yan Ji stared at him with a smile and a smile. Jemek. A spirit in Chi Yun's mind suddenly responded to what Donga said. He stepped slightly, his face a little red, and Nana said, "It doesn't look like there are such ingredients in the refrigerator." Yanj's eyes glanced round his third leg. Chi Yun. The physical pain of being stared at. Chi Yun suddenly wanted to go to the toilet, and felt that he couldn't bear it for a moment. But for fear of revealing flaws, forcing the egg/pain to appease Yanj, otherwise call for such a takeaway. "No, I want you to do it yourself." Chi Yun was defeated in Yanj's persistent eyes. "I let people deliver the ingredients, but I have never made them, and the taste may not be good." Song, it doesn't matter. It wasn't her eating anyway. Chi Yun couldn't stand the words and kept scanning his younger brother's eyes. He applied weakly, I'll go to the bathroom first." Yan Ji smiled kindly at him and his uncle. "Go." The skin smiles, but the smile is so oozing. Chi Yun was a little bit square, completely out of the previous domineering momentum. Under the eyes of Yan Ji's extremely hot gaze, he almost went forward with the same hands and feet. After lingering in the bathroom for a long time, Chi Yun, who kept cheering for himself, went out and found out that Song of Song had changed a set of pajamas at home, and was sitting on the sofa and watching TV. The idol drama he played was shown on TV, and the plot was just when he spent the niche in the classroom after school. Chi Yun silently returned to the house and Molly got dressed and went to the kitchen. He felt that all his courage had been used up by the second child, and now he would definitely lose to Shang Yanj. The ingredients called soon arrived. Chi Yun took the ingredients silently in the surprised look of the delivery staff, gave the delivery staff a tip and patted the guy's shoulder and cut it out. "Tough work, thank you." Chi Yun's gaze didn't say anything like "please don't talk in the future." After the door was closed, Chi Yun Nana said to Yanj, "Sister, what do you want to eat at night?" Casual. Chi Yun got the order, made several light side dishes, and made sweet soup. As for the gooey duck, he deliberately made a practice, then divided the ingredients into 3 pieces, and fry them separately. When the dishes are served, Chi Yun is like a young daughter-in-law who has been abused at home, holding her own apron and anxiously chanting, "Sister, the meal is ready, let's eat first." Yanj got up and walked to the dining table. He didn't see the thing he wanted, and his face suddenly cooled down. Chi Yun was busy pointing at a few dishes before she said, "I cut and fried gooey duck separately. I don't know how it tastes for the first time." "Sister, try it." The dogleg offered his own chopsticks. Yanj didn't pick up the chopsticks. She sat down and took the spoon and drank the soup. Chi Yun was in her heart, always feeling that her sister was going to make a big move. Especially when he saw the gooey ducks on the table where he was divided by 5 horses, he felt more embarrassed. Although he was hungry, he didn't eat anything. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 80. Chi Yun suddenly bent down and put his head on Yan Ji's thigh. He closed his eyes, his voice was still soft, but he was not in the mood. "In my life, my sister gave it to me. My sister wants to destroy it. There is nothing to say. Sister," he sighed, and said, "doesn't there really be any love for me?" Yan Ji spread his hands on the sofa, stared down at Chi Yun's eyebrows, and heard the answer almost without hesitation, "No." "Sister, do you still like Wang Xiaoming?" "Dislike." "Then, what kind of man do you like?" "A man who is not a sister-to-brother relationship. I don't mind to like it." This remark made Chi Yun speechless for a long time. He blurted out suddenly, if it hadn't been adopted by her because of her money. Then he laughed first. If it hadn't been there, there would still be his acquaintance with Yanj. If she hadn't helped him, maybe he would live in another dirty and dark world. He smiled, his smile gradually becoming sour. When he was so big, he had the urge to cry for the first time. But crying can solve any problem. He is a man, crying this behavior is not suitable for him. Suppressing her emotions, Chi Yuan immediately said, "Sister, you are also a public figure. Such an alarm will not affect you well, otherwise I will surrender myself and say that I have killed someone. This should also be in prison. Stay forever." When he said that, he opened his eyes and looked at the words, "Sister, just before you surrender, can you pretend to like me for a day?" No. Yan Ji's response did not hesitate, "You are my brother, and I like you only because of my sister. Can't you?" He was a little disappointed and closed his eyes again. Although his fingers were shaking with trembling, his face was still smiling, his facial features were extremely moist under the warm light. "No." 2 words, decisive. Chi Yuan didn't move for a long time. Yan Ji did not want her to maintain such an ambiguous posture with him. About feeling the impatience of Yanj, Chi Yuan re-spoken. "Sister," he said, "don't feel guilty after I'm gone. You're really nice to me. You did what you promised me at the beginning. You were not wrong at all. It was me wrong, sister. Sorry." After he finished speaking, he sat up slowly, changed his clothes slowly, and walked towards the door. He's slow and he moves slowly. He waited for her to stop him. But it didn't. She didn't stop him, and even when he went to the door and turned his head to see, she realized that she was still staring at the TV intently. She didn't look at him. He held his doorknob tightly and let go. At this moment, suddenly, his heart suddenly felt painless. He smiled and called her, "Sister." He slightly raised his voice with a smile, covering up the sadness and collapse in his heart. He continued to say, "Sister, I'm leaving." "Okay." He listened to her indifferent voice. At this moment, there was even an urge to step forward and hug her tightly, and then fuse her into his own body. This terrible idea made him look down on himself. He smiled at himself, and when she didn't speak, he asked her again, "Sister, if I leave, will you adopt another brother?" "Will not." "Why?" "My brother is only you." After hearing this, he didn't know whether to cry or laugh. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 81. Chi Yuan opened the door, but his eyes were still staring at the silhouette of Yanj. This silence was too tortured, and he couldn't help but said, "Sister, why did you adopt me in the first place?" Her answer was, as always, "Because you are my brother." He had asked this question many times, and her answer never changed. He had suspected that she hadn't told the truth. But now, at this moment, he felt that she really regarded him as his brother. All the unhappiness and sadness in his heart, all the unwillingness and resentment, became blank at this moment. Stepping out the door, staring blankly at the empty corridor. No courage to look back, no hope. She did not make any mistakes. She regarded him as his brother and always regarded him as his brother. He was wrong. He was really wrong. He shouldn't have maliciously speculated on her kind from the beginning. From the beginning, he should have erased the thought of her so-called brother. He should not wait and see or hesitate. He acted too late. Slowly closing the door, he was still reluctant, turning to look at her silhouette sitting on the sofa in the door slit. She didn't look at him all the way from start to finish. She was sure now and hated him so much. Regret it? He squeezed his hands tightly and let the door slowly close, letting her leave his sight and never see again. No regrets at all, just sad. Sad, sad. He felt as if he had once again become an existence abandoned by the whole world, and returned to the dark and lightless world of the past. This time, no one would call his brother to pull him away from that world. Chi Yuan stood at the door for a long time. He had been waiting for her to chase him out, his standing legs were numb, and in the end he felt that both legs were stiff and without any consciousness. But she really didn't want him this time. Yanj heard the door closed, and her whole body was loose and completely soft on the sofa. The chicken asked her in puzzlement, "It's not good for you to do this. It might as well be happy to roll the sheets with him. Maybe it's rolling, he will break the situation. You say you put him rush away, what can you do with this mission?" Yan Ji closed his eyes, and his face was more sad than death, and he sighed, "Anyway, the task is not complete. I do nt feel good about what makes him feel good, what kind of happily roll the sheets, if I want to, just find a man you can roll the sheets, now I can cover all kinds of entertainers, why should I dedicate my body to make him happy physically and mentally?" The chicken's mouth was wide open and he couldn't respond to Yanj's words for a long time. During this time, he has been watching urban idol dramas. The heroes and heroines in the dramas are not like this, and even the female partners are not like songs. The idea of Yanj made it awkward, but it couldn't refute it, and even thought, yeah, that's the truth. After glaring for a long time, the chick turned his eyes and finally understood what went wrong. Do you really want him to go to jail? Actually, I watched all the way, I think, you seem to be very happy, yeah, you can sue him to be a strong girl, aren't you obviously eating beautifully? Is it still typical that someone else is bad? Yanj retorted, this old woman with such a weak body can resist him and kill him early. If she can't resist it, she won't be allowed to cool.